They didn't love your light. They wanted to own it. And the most painful part, you let them in because you felt their darkness and thought it was a wound you could heal. It wasn't a wound. It was a trap. And your compassion walked you straight into it with a smile on your face. But let's go deeper than that. Because the surface version of this truth isn't enough. You need the full weight of it to land. Think about the people you have loved the hardest in your life. The ones you showed up for at midnight. The ones you defended in rooms where they weren't present. The ones you gave second chances, third chances, chances that didn't even have numbers anymore. Now ask yourself honestly how many of those people genuinely celebrated you, not tolerated you, not needed you, actually celebrated you, your growth, your peace, your becoming. If that question made you pause, good. Sit in that pause. Because that discomfort is information your mind has been trying to deliver for a long time, and your heart kept returning to sender. Here is what they never taught you about being an empath. Your capacity to feel deeply is extraordinary. Your ability to sense pain in others before they've spoken a word, to walk into a room and immediately know who is suffering, to hold space for people in their darkest moments, that is not ordinary. That is rare. That is powerful. But that same power has a shadow side that nobody warns you about. You don't just attract people who need love. You attract people who have never learned to generate it for themselves. And those people, the ones who have spent their entire lives emotionally bankrupt, the ones who have never done the inner work, the ones who are running from their own reflection, they find you like a lighthouse in the dark, not to be guided, to be anchored to, permanently, without your permission. You have been confusing people who are drawn to your energy with people who actually deserve it. Those are two completely different things. And that confusion, that single, costly confusion, has drained you in ways that sleep cannot fix, in ways that vacations cannot restore, in ways that no amount of journaling or meditation has been able to fully touch. Because the wound keeps getting reopened by the same hands you keep allowing back through the door. You felt their pain and you called it connection. You felt their emptiness and you called it depth. You felt their pull toward you and you called it love. But attraction is not love. Need is not love. Dependency wrapped in charm is not love. And the sooner you stop romanticizing the intensity of what broken people feel toward you, the sooner you will stop mistaking their hunger for your light as evidence that you belong together. Here is the part that stings the most, and it needs to sting, because comfort has kept you stuck long enough. You have known. You have always known. You felt the shift in the room when you shared good news. You noticed the subtle comments, dressed up as jokes. You sensed the energy that changed when you started healing, when you started rising, when you started taking up the space you were always meant to occupy. You felt all of it in your body before your mind could form the words for it, and you talked yourself out of it every single time. Because empaths are not just good at feeling others' pain, they are experts at explaining it away, at finding the generous interpretation, at giving the benefit of a doubt that was never earned and never deserved. That ends today. Not because you should become cold, not because you should stop feeling, but because your light, the real, rare, irreplaceable light that lives inside you, deserves to be surrounded by people who are not secretly threatened by its existence. You have been casting pearls and calling it generosity. It's time to learn the difference between giving and disappearing. Here's what nobody is saying out loud. And the reason nobody is saying it is because it's uncomfortable. It disrupts the narrative. It challenges the version of events that's easier to live with. But easy has never served you. Easy has only kept you in cycles that should have ended years ago. So let's say the thing that the polished, packaged world of self-help keeps dancing around without ever fully landing on. Your light doesn't just attract love, it attracts hunger. There is a category of people, and they exist in every area of your life, in friendships, in relationships, in workplaces, in families, who are not drawn to you because they resonate with who you are. They are drawn to you because you carry something they have never been able to build inside themselves: peace, warmth, emotional depth, a groundedness that makes everyone around you feel safe, a genuine capacity to see people, to hear them, to hold them without judgment. And that is beautiful, until it isn't. Because there are people in your life right now, maybe people you call close, maybe people you have, sacrificed for maybe people you have restructured your entire emotional world around, who do not celebrate who you are. They tolerate it, publicly. And privately in the quiet corners of their own minds, they are suffocating in the shadow of everything you naturally and effortlessly are. Let that land. They are not neutral about you. They are not indifferent. They are actively, quietly, consistently unsettled by your presence, not because you have done anything wrong, but because your existence reminds them of everything they have refused to become. Your healing exposes their avoidance. Your clarity highlights their confusion. Your confidence, even when it is soft and unassuming, is a mirror they did not ask to stand in front of, and mirrors make uncomfortable people dangerous. They smile at your wins with a warmth that evaporates the moment you look away. They offer you advice unsolicited, carefully worded, that carries just enough doubt to plant a seed of hesitation in your mind. They are the first to arrive when you are falling apart, and the first to fade when you start to rise. They celebrate your struggle because your struggle makes them feel equal to you. And they cannot handle your wholeness because your wholeness makes them feel left behind. You noticed all of this. You felt every single frequency of it in your body, and then you excused it. You rationalized it. You reframed it through the lens of your own generosity and told yourself they were just going through something, that they needed more time. That if you stayed patient, if you stayed present, if you just kept showing up with enough love and enough grace, eventually something would shift. Nothing shifted. Because you were treating resentment like it was a wound, and resentment is not a wound. Resentment is a choice, a slow, daily, quietly made choice to blame someone else's light for your own darkness, rather than doing the terrifying work of building something within yourself. You called it complicated. You called it a rough patch. You called it depth because the intensity of the dynamic felt meaningful, felt significant, felt like something worth fighting for. It wasn't complicated. It was resentment wearing the costume of a relationship. And the most brutal realization hiding inside all of this is not that these people exist. The world will always have people who resent what they cannot replicate. The brutal realization is that you have been handing them VIP access to your most sacred spaces, your time, your energy, your self-worth, your vision for your own life, and calling it loyalty. You have been so committed to seeing the best in people that you have been willing to ignore the worst of what they were doing to you. That is not empathy anymore. That is self-abandonment with a generous name, and you of all people deserve so much better than a life spent shrinking so that people who secretly resent you can stay comfortable. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. Not the surface-level uncomfortable that you can shake off with a motivational quote and a good night's sleep. The kind of uncomfortable that sits in your chest for days. The kind that makes you replay conversations, rethink relationships, and question narratives you have been carrying for years as though they were facts. That kind of uncomfortable. Because that is the only kind that actually changes anything. There are 3 realizations here. And every single one of them is going to challenge something you currently believe about yourself, about the people around you, and about why your life keeps producing the same painful patterns no matter how much inner work you do. The first realization: people who resent your light are not your enemies. They are mirrors of their own unlived potential. Read that again, slowly. They are not villains. They did not wake up one morning and decide to target you specifically. What happened is far more human than that, and in some ways far more heartbreaking. They looked at you, at your peace, your growth, your emotional intelligence, your ability to keep moving forward despite everything life has handed you. And instead of feeling inspired, they felt exposed. Instead of feeling motivated, they felt accused. Because your existence, without you doing a single thing wrong, holds up a reflection of the life they chose not to build, the healing they chose not to pursue, the version of themselves they gave up on long before they ever met you. Your peace reminds them of their chaos. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Your emotional depth makes their shallowness impossible to ignore. And rather than sitting with that discomfort and letting it push them towards something better, they redirect it outward, toward you, in the form of subtle sabotage, quiet criticism, and a resentment they will never fully admit to even themselves. You are not the problem. You are the mirror. But that doesn't make standing in front of them any less costly. The second realization, and this one is the one you have been most aggressively avoiding. You keep attracting them because part of you believes you must be useful to be worthy of love. This is the core wound. This is the thing underneath everything else. You were taught somewhere, somehow, by someone or by a series of experiences that rewired your nervous system before you were old enough to have a say in it, that love is something you earn through service, that your value lives in your availability, that if you feel deeply enough, give generously enough, stay long enough, sacrifice visibly enough, then maybe, finally, you will be chosen, fully, without conditions. And so you walk into every room already scanning for who needs saving. And broken people feel that frequency before you've spoken a single word. They find you not because you are weak, but because you radiate a warmth they have been starving for and never once cultivated within themselves. You become the answer to a question they never bothered to ask themselves. And you stay long past the point your intuition told you to leave, because leaving feels like failure, and empaths are terrified of failing the people they love. But here is what you need to hear with every cell in your body. Being chosen by someone who needs you is not the same as being loved by someone who sees you. The third realization, the one with the sharpest edge. Some of the people you are protecting with your silence are the very ones poisoning your progress. Every time you downplay a win in their presence, every time you edit your excitement before sharing it with them, every time you hold back the full truth of how well your life is going because you already know, you already feel how they will receive it. You are not being humble in those moments. You are not being sensitive or considerate or gracious. You are shrinking, deliberately, repeatedly, to manage the emotional comfort of someone who has never once managed theirs for you. And the longer you do it, the more natural it feels. Until one day you realize you have become a smaller, quieter, more apologetic version of yourself, and you cannot even remember exactly when the erosion began. You funded their resentment with your own self-erasure, and you called it keeping the peace. The peace was never kept. You just stopped fighting for yourself and called the silence harmony. Expanded section 4, the mindset shift that changes everything, 600 to 700 words. The mindset shift that changes everything. Stop trying to understand why they resent you. That sentence alone could save you years. Years of overanalyzing conversations that were never meant to make sense. Years of replaying interactions, searching for the moment you went wrong. The thing you said, the boundary you failed to set, the version of yourself that was too much or not enough. Years of sitting with a confusion that was never yours to solve in the first place. Because here is what you have been doing, and you have been doing it with the best intentions and the most exhausting dedication. You have been applying your emotional intelligence to people who have no interest in being understood. You have been extending your empathy like a bridge to people who were never planning to cross it. You have been using your greatest gift in service of people who resent the very fact that you possess it. And it has cost you everything: your clarity, your confidence, your sense of self, your ability to trust your own instincts in a room full of people who benefit from your self-doubt. So here is the shift, and it is not gentle, because gentle hasn't worked. Stop reading their behavior as a problem to be solved and start reading it as information to be acted on. You are an empath. You feel energy before words are formed. You sense shifts in a room before anyone has spoken. You know you have always known when something is off, when a compliment carries contempt underneath it, when a smile doesn't match the frequency of the person wearing it. You know. The problem has never been your ability to feel the truth. The problem is what you do after you feel it. You override it, every single time. You feel the warning, and then you construct an elaborate, generous, compassionate explanation for why the warning is probably wrong. You give the benefit of the doubt, not because the doubt deserves the benefit, but because confronting the truth would require you to make a decision you are not yet ready to make. That ends now. Your instincts are not malfunctioning. Your tolerance is. Here is what selfish actually means for an empath at this level of awareness. It means you stop treating your energy like it is infinite. It is not infinite. It is precious. It is specific, and it is being quietly hemorrhaged by relationships that were never built to be reciprocal. Selfish means you stop explaining your boundaries to people who were never going to respect them because the explanation was never for them. It was for you. It was one more way of seeking permission to protect yourself from someone who was counting on you never to fully do it. Selfish means you stop being available in the ways that cost you the most to people who contribute the least. Not dramatically, not with a speech or a confrontation or a moment of explosive boundary setting. Simply quietly you stop. You redirect. You reinvest. Because here is the truth about your energy that nobody has said to you clearly enough. Every hour you spend managing the emotional discomfort of someone who resents your quant is an hour stolen from the people who are genuinely waiting for what you carry. There are people in this world, maybe you haven't met all of them yet, who would receive your light with gratitude instead of resentment, who would grow in your presence instead of shrink from it, who would celebrate your becoming instead of quietly working to interrupt it. Those people exist, but you will never find them, never recognize them, never have the capacity to fully show up for them, as long as you are pouring everything you have into the ones who were never meant to stay. Not everyone who needs your light is meant to live in it. Some people are meant to be passing shadows, not permanent residents of your life. A passing shadow does not deserve a key to your home. It does not deserve access to your most vulnerable spaces, your deepest truths, your highest visions for your own future. Your light is not a rehabilitation center. It is not an open charity. It is not an endlessly renewable resource available to anyone willing to stand close enough to absorb it. It is a sacred space. And you finally, unapologetically get to decide who enters. Because the moment you stop being available for everything and everyone, something extraordinary happens. You become powerful for something real. You become present in a way you haven't been in years. You start to recognize your own voice again, the one that got quieter and quieter every time you chose someone else's comfort over your own truth. Protect your energy like it matters. Because the moment you decide it matters, everything around you will begin to prove that it always did. Expanded section. 5 call to action, 600 to 700 words, call to action. So here is where it stops being philosophy and starts being personal. Everything up to this point has been truth delivered at a distance. Concepts, realizations, frameworks for understanding the patterns that have been quietly dismantling your peace for longer than you want to admit. And truth at a distance is comfortable enough. You can nod along. You can feel the resonance. You can say, yes, that's exactly it. That's precisely what's been happening, and then close the tab and go right back to the same relationships, the same dynamics, the same cycles that have been draining you for years. That is what most people do. They consume the insight and skip the application. They feel the shift in the moment and then choose the familiar discomfort over the terrifying work of actual change. You are not most people, and you have run out of time to keep pretending otherwise. So here is what you do. Not someday. Not when the timing is better. Not after one more conversation, one more chance, one more attempt to make something work that has already shown you exactly what it is. Now. Sit with this question and do not rush past it the way you rush past your own needs every single day. How do you feel after spending time with the people who are closest to you? Not during. Not in the performance of the interaction, not in the effort of showing up, not in the familiar comfort of the routine you have built around them. After. When you are alone again. When the noise settles. When it is just you and the honest, unfiltered residue of the time you just spent. Do you feel expanded or hollowed out? Do you feel seen or subtly reduced? Does your sense of self feel intact, or does it feel like you spent the last few hours quietly disappearing piece by piece? Does your ambition feel alive and ignited, or does it feel vaguely foolish, quietly mocked, gently discouraged in ways that were never direct enough to confront but consistent enough to erode? Your nervous system already knows the answer. It has known for a long time. Your only job right now is to stop arguing with it. Stop explaining your evolution to people who are invested in your stagnation. Stop bringing your growth into rooms where it makes certain people feel uncomfortable, not because your growth is wrong, but because those rooms were never built to hold it. Stop offering your most sacred interior spaces, your dreams, your fears, your truest vision for your life to people who have demonstrated repeatedly and clearly that they do not handle what you share with care. You are not obligated to be an open book to people who read your pages and use what they find against you. And stop, please. Finally, stop mistaking someone's need for you as evidence of their love for you. Need and love are not the same frequency. Someone can need you desperately, completely, urgently, and still resent everything you are. Someone can rely on you entirely and simultaneously wish, in the quiet places they never speak from, that you were smaller, less certain, less whole. You have felt this. You have lived inside this contradiction and called it devotion. It was not devotion. It was dependency dressed in the language of love, and you deserve to know the difference long before now. So here is your challenge. One decision, one boundary, one relationship, one dynamic, one pattern that your gut has been flagging for months, maybe years. You already know what it is. You knew it before you even finished that sentence. You have known for so long that the knowing has become background noise, something you have learned to live around rather than act on. Act on it today. Not perfectly, not painlessly, just honestly. Because the right people, the ones who are meant to walk beside you, the ones who will celebrate your light, instead of calculating how to contain it, those people are waiting on the other side of the decision you keep postponing. And every single day you delay that decision is another day you spend being half of who you actually are, in rooms that were never worthy of your full presence, with people who were never equipped to receive it. You came here for a reason. You felt this for a reason. Because the right people don't resent your light. They find their own because of yours. Now stop waiting for permission to protect what was always worth protecting. Go choose yourself, completely, without apology, starting now.